Hey, what is up, yo? What a night that was of Auburn basketball, a game that they looked really good for a while, and then they looked really bad for a while, and they finished out the game looking pretty good. Won the game by, 93-78-15. I'm not a mathematician. There goes the music. Yeah, I'm not a mathematician. My name is Jay Tate. I am the publisher/Commodore at auburnsports.com, and it is a great website that I would strongly recommend that you be a member of. And I think we have a lot of folks in the chat today who are members. In fact, I can see that's very much the case. Yes, I have a column up right now, the big game wrap, kind of reviewing what I thought were some interesting things that happened in the game. And BMAT just put his game thread up, our game story up as well. So we got some coverage there on the front of auburnsports.com. And we'll be talking about that game because I think it was significant in some ways. I think some of the things that frustrate the hell out of me and other people on the bunker about BP. And I don't have a lot of things bad to say about BP as a coach. I generally agree with what he does, but he's got this thing with timeouts where he really wants his players to stem opponent runs, and he doesn't want to call timeouts. And it's something that I used to cover Rick Pitino when he was in Kentucky, and he would do this. He was famous for it, and I found it frustrating then as at the time a UK fan. I mean, I was like 19 years old, and BP does it too, and it's just odd. So we'll talk about that too. Also, there's been some things happening in the world of Auburn football you may be aware of. Carnell Williams resigned. Zach Etheridge resigned, and I think this past week, well, certainly since our last show, Ron Roberts is on his way out. And Philip Montgomery is, in fact, out. So a lot of change going on in terms of football coaching personnel. And a lot of it very surprising to people, I think. Maybe folks on the bunker who are tuned into Auburn on an hourly basis or even more often than that weren't shocked. But I think I was talking to some what I would consider to be casual Auburn folks last night, and they were just absolutely dumbfounded about what had been going on. So we'll still talk about that stuff as well. Let's bounce over to our main page here for the basketball brain drains. The Auburn Tigers again 3-0 now in SEC play, 14-2 overall. That's right, and they've won I think 8 or 9 in a row. Bourbon, I am drinking again. I'm not putting a lot of effort into this one today. Just this Four Roses Small Batch Select. I'm a big fan of this. You could find this pretty much everywhere, and it's good. In fact, I feel that way about pretty much anything Four Roses does. Yeah. Let's see. Terrence says, did our recruits visiting go to the game today? Yes, the football recruits did, and they had a basketball, Malik Thomas, who's I think we've got him as a 5-star. Yeah, number 7 player in the country. 5-star guard from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who is seriously thinking about Auburn and also Pitt and Duke. He was here as well, and BMAT is to talk to him. BMAT is to talk to him tomorrow morning when he departs his official visit. So, looking forward to that. We do have some super chats I want to pop up here because we love them, and these are from some absolute legends. Pocket Watch, who is a official channel legend, gives us the Weagle. We can give you something for that, bro. How about some applause? Absolutely. Still working on getting my new Stream Deck equipment working. It happens sometimes. Also, Cleveland Brown, who I have not read this yet, but I bet he's going to tell me to stay hydrated. He did not. The one time he doesn't do that. He says, late LSU run was scary, but we did get the W. War Damn Eagle. There you go, Cleveland Brown. Hey, they did get themselves sorted. So, ultimately, maybe the suffering was redemptive, but I still find it frustrating. And, maybe by the time we or they get to March Madness and it's time to really put up or shut up, maybe this kind of experience that you get from a game like this where the coach just lets you kind of languish and figure out your own problems, maybe that comes in handy. He's a big believer in that, and that's cool. He's the coach. Also, big-time super chatter. I feel like a stranger jumps in. Word up, Word Damn Eagle, much love, Drainers, Swoogans, and Tates, especially Mama Tate. Thank you for thinking of my madre. I missed first half. That got crazy. How about Cardwell? Cardwell was he's pleasant now, isn't he? He was always been this energetic guy, but now he's like this focused, energetic guy. And same thing for KD. guys, and Chad Baker Mazzara, who's also a very flammable person, but I think he has his emotions in check, and he's been playing some great basketball. Dylan definitely brings it. He's a lot more than just a backup 5 now, isn't he? He makes plays. He makes the team better. He actively makes the team better, and it's a big plus. The depth this team has is shocking, I think, to people who haven't been paying attention to how he's built this team, and it kind of lacks that star. I mean, I know Janai's a star, statistically speaking, but when you're watching the game, sometimes he seems like a subtle contributor, and then you look up and he's got 15 points on 9 of 8 shooting. Wait, you couldn't do that. You know what I mean? 5 of 8 shooting or something, and he's got 8 rebounds and 3 blocks, and he's having a great night, and you don't even really notice him. Yes, I feel like a stranger says that second team gets lit. They really do. I kind of like what BP's doing with it, where it seems like in the first half he leaves the first group with the first group and the second group with the second group and kind of goes in waves. But in the second half, he'll kind of split them up and mix and match to get the best group out there. I think that's really good coaching. I know it's not comfortable for him to do that, but it's good. Sam H. jumps in with the super chat. He's another one of our channel legends. It's an all-around stud. Solid win. This team is so much fun to watch. Yes, applause for that one, too. This team is amazing. I was just telling Courtney, and I might have jinxed the team a little bit when I went downstairs at halftime. I was telling Courtney, this team is so good right now because they were playing amazing basketball. I think they finished the first half on a 19-4 run. That was a 6-minute run there, and LSU really had nothing. I mean, Auburn was just destroying them with the hands, deflecting a lot of passes, shutting down passing lanes, turning those deflections into transition opportunities, and Auburn they're really good with transition opportunities. And then I don't know what point it was, maybe the 12-minute mark to the 6-minute mark of the second half, LSU went off. They hit 4 threes in a row, and then that kicked off a 21-2 run, and they got back in the game. Kind of, they got it down to I think 8, maybe 10 or 8. And Auburn kind of pushed it back and ended up winning by a fairly big margin, 15. But I think Auburn was up 28 at one point. Got to finish. I noticed the BP in his post-game radio was talking about how they got lined up and driven by, and that's what happened in the Appalachian State game. And that is not something that LSU was doing early in the game. It's a kind of a concept they switched to, and I think it's alarming to BP that they haven't fixed that problem yet. I'm not sure. Not every team is going to have the kind of guards that can drive like that. But it's a specific issue that App State really exploited, and I think some teams are going to continue trying to hit Auburn in that way. Ole Miss is definitely one of them because Al's going to drive for sure. Let's see. Lucas says several games in a row where Aiden fills it up early. Hope he can expand it. Yeah, I remember thinking, he was taking a lot of long shots in the last game, didn't hit much of anything. This game, he was very vervy there early on and was hitting buckets. Didn't hit as much in the second half. I don't remember him taking a bunch of shots in the second half, honestly. Seems like Trey's better in the second half and Aiden's better in the first. I don't have stats in front of me to prove that. I just feel like that's the truth, Let's see. Daniel P. says he was throwing some E-hands at AU Rockstar earlier. I know that he had started a thread about how Bo Nix is a traitor and all that kind of stuff, and that Bo was at the game today. Actually, he was at the football complex earlier, and some people are still upset about that. I don't personally get it, but I mean, to me, he's an Auburn dude, and he left for reasons that we all would have left Auburn for. He was being coached by Harsin. The offense was in shambles. I mean, the recruiting was dog shit. Of course he left. He's not a dummy. And he played great in Oregon. I don't know. If you guys make a good argument that we should hate Bo, I'm open to it, but I would be surprised if I sympathize with that position. Jackson S. jumps in. Bruce just said he doesn't think we're the 16th best team right now. Said there are more than 16 teams that are better than Auburn. You think he's just saying that because of rat poison? Kind of. I think that he he's concerned about some of the things that happened in this game, right? I don't understand the someone was joking on the bunker earlier about he must be getting paid for the timeouts that he holds after games, like he gets a bonus for every timeout he holds. I thought he should have called a couple timeouts during that LSU run today, and just to break it up, to make LSU have to sit down for 3 or 4 minutes and then have to resume play. A lot of times that'll slow people down. And it just seemed like he wanted to see it go down. Like he wanted to see, not the team lose, but he wanted to just, you guys figure this out. And I can remember back in the day, Patino just sitting on the sidelines and being like, no, I'm not calling timeout. You guys just figure this shit out on your own. And I'm big on tough love, man. I think you got to teach these kids to fix their own stuff. I agree with that, but man, come on now. We're still playing a game here. And I think the coach needs to call some timeouts when things aren't going well. Just my opinion, Jackson. So, teams that I think genuinely are better than Auburn. Let's take a look on KenPom. I know Houston lost again today. It's 2 in a row for them. Arizona is kind of hard to assess. Still, Purdue's better than Auburn. I don't know how Auburn would deal with Zach Edey. He had 30 points and 20 boards today in their win. I mean, golly. He's 7'4". I mean, he's a problem. UConn, in my opinion, is probably better than Auburn. UNC, I haven't seen enough of. Tennessee's not as good as Auburn, in my opinion. Alabama's a weird team. They're not as good as Auburn right now. But they have as much talent as Auburn. They just got to get organized. Illinois, without Terrence Shannon's, probably not as good as Auburn. Wisconsin, I'm still kind of figuring out how they're having this success right now because I don't love that roster. Duke's really good. Hate to say it. BYU is good, coached by a guy I used to cover named Mark Pope at UK. But I watched them play. The only game I've seen them play this year was the Cincinnati game last week, and they just kind of rolled over in that one. So I was like, what? And we obviously know Baylor's a problem. They've got the guards to do dirty things to Auburn. So at that point, you're looking at Creighton, Iowa State, Kansas, Kentucky. Kentucky's good, but they lost today down in College Station despite having a lot of calls go their way. And then you're getting down to Michigan State, Marquette. No. So Auburn, to me, Auburn's in the top 6 or 7 group. I think it's just rat poison. He's trying to avoid the rat poison. Terrence says Kansas is better. Yeah, Kansas has just had some. Again, it's a long season, right? In football, you kind of have to be fully formed early, or you're done, right? Alabama showed you that's about as late as you can transform yourself because they didn't play very good football early on. They really tightened up, I thought, in that South Florida game, and then they went and had a really nice run. That's about as late as you can do in basketball. In football. In basketball, you've got until March. But Auburn, the Final Four run, I mean, they got their ass handed to them in Rupp in late February that year. So you look at how things are right now, there's generally not a lot of homeostasis in the world of college basketball. It's just me talking. Wizard D says Kansas is a thin team. Yeah, I think they're the one I was looking at the other day where literally their starters are playing 80% of their minutes. Let me see if that was the team I was looking at. Oh, God, yes. DeJuan Harris is playing 90% of the team's minutes. Holy cow. They've got a power forward that's playing 82%. They've got a 4 that's playing 88%. Yeah, these guys are going to get wore down. They haven't had it happen yet on their schedule, though. 14-2. Lost to Central Florida. That was a big one for the Golden Knights. And TCU has been hot lately. They beat TCU, but TCU is one of those teams that I suspect is going to be a problem later on. I'm glad we can talk about things like this a little bit. Small Time Republic says, congrats to Aubie on his 11th national championship. I heard that today. I saw that during the broadcast. That's awesome. Aubie's truly one of the GOATs. And that's huge. Chaz Music in the house says, yo, JG, don't doubt the Pearl Wisdom. Everything he's doing is getting intel to use for a tournament run. Hey, man, he's been doing this a long time. I mean, this timeouts thing, it's just who he is. It's part of his DNA. And, yeah, he thinks it's worth it. If you watch, though, when they get into March, he will call timeouts. Or he's more likely to. At this time of year, he just lets it roll. I don't know. Hayden says, JG, what's up, brother? Second half was a little scary, but I like that. We had to fight. Love this team, Ordam Eagle. Good job, Hayden. I think that's the right attitude to have. Solo Tigre said that UCF win was pretty big. There's no doubt. That was pretty big. Terrence says Gonzaga's been sucking lately. Yeah, without Drew Timme, they're just struggling, man. Let's see. Feel Like a Stranger says, JG, a National Hoops podcast who we're protecting for anonymity's sake, says Kansas is the best four-man team in the country, but they fall off bad. Hey, man, that's where Flory Badunga wants to play, so I don't know if he wants to go there, play 85% of minutes and lose in the tournament, that's fine. I mean, whatever. It's all good. As far as calls tonight, I've already set up a call with Sir J-Head. I don't know as though we will talk a whole lot of basketball with him, but we got a lot of football stuff to talk about. Crocky Poo in the chat. We love having Crocky Poo in the chat. You may know him as Crocosile22 from The Bunker, one of our great members. Glad to see you, brother. Yeah, let's see. I was not in the press conference, but Randall says, yes, Bruce said as much during his presser. His comment was actually more pointed at not letting LSU rest and the figure it out yourselves. I mean, I've talked to him about this before. I'm glad he's just saying that. Jacob says, Jay, are you just going to ignore me? Did I? What up, brother? It's good to see you. Glad to have you here, my G. Very, very glad to have you here. What are y'all drinking tonight? I haven't even had my first sip yet. Here it goes right now. Solo Tigre says, J-Head knows basketball. I didn't mean that J-Head's an idiot. I just meant that he is generally our football insider over here, and so we would probably fight on that, focus on that, I should say. But he says he does a pod with that prick Hoke. Poor Hoke. Hoke he had some bumpy days. It happens sometimes. We've all been there. I've been there many times in my careers as well. Getting information on coaching changes and particularly the situation with Carnell and Zach was when you're in our position, it's really hard to kind of know what to write and what not to write. And I've learned. Still coughing, guys. I'm sorry. Those of you who've been following the show have been coughing since December, I swear. The goal really is to hold back as much as you can, and then if you go through it in your head, hey, should I write this? No. Should I write this? No. Should I write this? No. Maybe on the 8th or 9th time, you start thinking about it and say, well, maybe I should write that. The problem is that when you hear something from one place or maybe two places, but they might be similar places, and you go bang it out, you can't pull it back. And so I go carefully. We go very carefully. B-Matt has been doing this almost as long as I have, so it's great, I think, for our staff to have some guys that have been doing it a really long time. And there's other guys. I mean, Jason Caldwell's been doing it as long as I have, and Jay Lee's been doing it almost as long as I have. So it's a great beat out there. There's a lot of really, really talented and experienced, good Auburn reporters. You guys, as Auburn fans, most of you, are very fortunate in that way. And Justin Ferguson's another one. I mean, just really, really good. Good. Stu Pup jumps in. He has super chatted us every single show we've ever done. Says, chilling with my pops while watching basketball. Thank you to Stu Pup's dad, who made that awesome church, wooden church that I have displayed on the front of our house, right under where I sit, actually, right in our front window, that Stu Pup sent me. That was incredible, dude. Love it. I see it every day. Glad to get that first bad run out of the way before going to that weird gymnasium in Nashville. You're right. I love Memorial Gym. Probably my favorite basketball gym in America. It's more like a theater, if you've ever been there. The benches are on the ends. They're under the goals. And the stadium is kind of, or the floor, I should say, is kind of elevated. If you're sitting in the first 10 rows at that gym, you're actually under the floor. Like, you're looking up at the players. It's just an amazing place. It's perfect for Vanderbilt, you know. Let's see. Kanuman said, Jacob G. Let's see. He says, "Love me some J-Head. We need to get Doc in here." Well, shoot, Doc is always welcome here. He used to call into the show a bunch, but he hasn't lately. It's probably been a couple years now. Also, Papa Bear hadn't called in lately either. Unless he be too toxic in here. He ain't toxic. Raven says, "Basketball is center stage." My guy. Let's go ahead and get J-Head on. I don't want to. I'm coughing again. Yeah, let's go ahead and there you go, Jay. Go ahead and get J-Head on. Yeah, let's do that. We had a 22-minute call with him last time. That's a great call. All right, we are ringing. You guys can't hear it.
JGT, what's up, brother?
There he is, J-Head. We love it, bro.
What's going on, my man?
Well, we've been talking basketball mostly, but we were also talking a little football.
I got you. Well,
is it true that do you do a basketball related show?
I do.
With Hokinson?
I do. Justin asked for a little bit of help. He needed another person to come on, and so I decided to help him out there. But yeah, we do it on typically on Monday nights. But glad to be here with you guys tonight talking basketball.
You and Hoke are like brothers, man. That's crazy.
Oh, come on now. Don't do me like that.
I'd never do you like that for real, J-Head. I was just fucking with you, man. Hey, talk to me about this basketball game tonight, though, for real. I thought the Tigers were amazing for a while, and they just kind of went in the shitter, didn't they?
They did. And look, that happens, especially when you get that kind of momentum that early, and then you start to you play a little bit flat. You know what I mean? The air comes out of the ball some. You start letting things go. Your intensity kind of dissipates a little bit, and so those things happen. This is SEC play. LSU is obviously a better team than I think people anticipated at the beginning of the season, and Jalen Cook makes a huge difference in that team, even though he wasn't the star for them tonight. But I thought early on that we moved the ball well. Definitely the lack of isolation play by comparison to last year is significantly better. I think they reversed the basketball, do things in a 5-man out, 4-man out, flex cuts, all the kind of things that Bruce typically does. I think they did a really good job with their play sets tonight from an offensive play calling standpoint from what he was doing. And defensively, they struggled a little bit. I thought LSU got into the lane on them some. Probably turned the ball over a little bit more than Bruce would have liked. But all in all, when you're getting the kind of production that you get up and down your roster, I mean, I think Chad Maker-Bizarre went off for 19 tonight. Jalen had his worst night in probably the last 6 games and still had 9 points. You also had a combination, I think, of 23 points from your point guard position and 10 assists. Am I right on there? 6 assists, I'm sorry.
So right in front of me. Go ahead.
I think it was 23 and 6. So you got great production from your point guard position. Defense, obviously, where the defensive intensity, obviously, where it wasn't where you wanted it to be. But again, I think you saw some plus things tonight. You understand where this team is. They wear teams down with their depth. You saw that again tonight where they started to kind of really turn like a buzzsaw early there in the second half. And then they just let up on the intensity. I don't think that's going to be an issue moving forward in a lot of different games, but tonight it was. And give LSU credit, and they fought to the very end. They played very competitively. And again, I think this is a better ball club than some people anticipated. I mean, this is the same team that went into Texas A&M and took it to Buzz, and we know what kind of a coach he is and what kind of program he runs there.
Yeah. They've definitely gotten a lot better year over year, LSU has. It's crazy to me, J-Head, that every win that Auburn has, 14 now, have been by double digits. That's just insane to me.
Correct.
That's just crazy.
Correct. And think about that. We said this one went into the shitter, and they still won by 14 points, right?
I know.
All right, and I know look, you covered several basketball coaches. When I was working with the basketball program, I worked underneath Cliff Ellis, and I can never remember Beard Eves being anything in the realm of what the Jungle is and Neville Arena is from a fan turnout standpoint, how they're involved, interacted, and those are all things that Bruce has done. And it is easily one of the top 3 environments in all of SEC basketball right now. And just think about how far we've come as a program where we can talk about, I mean, you think about from Cliff to I don't even want to mention the next two. Jeff Lebo, who had his ups and downs, he had a really good year where they went to the NIT one year. The coach who shall not be named, and Tony Barbee. And then obviously we get to Bruce. But it amazes me year over year, the production he gets, the way he gets his team to perform. And yes, I think last year kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in his mouth just because he didn't have all the pieces to do the things that he wants to do. This year, you don't have the superstars on this team, but this is easily the deepest team he's ever had in his tenure at Auburn, in my honest opinion. And they just literally grind people into submission. And it's a very fun brand of basketball to watch, and just very excited for this team. And I think they honestly have a Sweet 16 caliber type team, potentially even an Elite Eight ceiling on this team.
Yeah. Hell, I think they might be Final Four. It just depends. They just overrun people with so much depth, you know?
They really do, and it all depends on matchups. Jay, you know, just like I do, the NCAA tournament is not the declaration of a true champion. It's who gets hot at the right time, in my honest opinion, because anybody can go off in one game. You know, the way the NBA does it is significantly more of a true declaration of an actual champion or the best team. But if Auburn gets favorable matchups, watch out. I mean, it easily could be a Final Four type run.
Yeah, he's got that horsepower.
He does.
Listen, talking about switching over to football, it has been a very eventful week. What do you make of the things that went on from a coaching personnel situation this week?
I think there were the necessary things that needed to be done for this program to move forward. And you nor I wanted to get into the specifics of why it was a mutual parting of ways with Carnell Williams. Nobody really wants to get into the why of why we parted ways with Zach. But I will say this. I think Hugh Freeze is going to double down on the people that he wants to bring into this program. I think there will be better cohesion amongst the coaching staff because they will all have a shared similar just in interaction with each other. They're going to know each other better. This is going to be a staff the chemistry is going to be better on it, in my honest opinion. And I'm not trying to throw dispersions at Zach or Carnell or Ron Roberts or Philip Montgomery for that matter. But I do think that they were just a little bit out of sync, and this required – Hugh saw this was a staff that was not going to be able to get it done in an elite level coaching in the SEC, that the parts didn't match up to get the maximum results. And so from an efficiency standpoint, you got to have relationships within that staff that allow for great chemistry and production because the team can feed off that. They understand that. They see that. And so he made the necessary changes that he thought he needs to make to improve this team. And that's where we all want to be, right? I mean, I don't think anybody thinks 6-6 is the pinnacle of where Auburn football should be. And Coach Freeze certainly doesn't see it that way. So he's making some changes and he's doing things his way. I do think he took some recommendations on some of the coaches he hired from the coordinator position. I don't think anybody forced those people on him. I think that's a false narrative. But I do think that he leaned maybe on some judgment of other people and tried to make it work. And at the end of the day, it just didn't fall together the way he wanted it to. Yeah. So now you're going to restart and you're going to, make it work.
The whole Philip Montgomery thing just weirded me out because he kept selling them out in press conferences. He was just like, I don't know what they're doing, and I'm just like, you're the head coach.
Right. I wish he wouldn't do that because it gets into this whole thing of, when the play call is good, Hugh's calling the plays. When the play call is bad, it's Philip Montgomery calling the plays, right?
Yeah.
No coach wants to be sold down the river like that, and I'm with you. And I think that's something that he won't be able to do moving forward because Hugh's already made the declaration he's going to be calling the plays. So it's going to be on him, and he's going to be solely accountable for this offense moving forward.
I put out a hot board for us here at auburnsports.com, and on it I had Chris Kiffin as the number one guy on defense, him and Zach Arnett. I feel like it's going to be one of those two. Where are you feeling on defensive coordinator search?
So I'm with you. I think it's either going to be Chris Kiffin or it's going to be Zach Arnett. I think it's going to be one of those two. I know Arnett's also up for the Missouri job, but I'm hearing less from that angle as far as his involvement is concerned, and it sounds like Eli's leaning in a different direction there, but that could change. I tend to believe that Chris Kiffin is 1A, and if we're being completely honest, and I think you and I had private conversations about this, when they were putting together the first staff, is that it felt like they were constructing the staff for Kiffin initially. It felt like he was the initial first pick, and then for whatever reason, things just didn't kind of come together, and he ended up pivoting to Ron Roberts. But the way the staff was constructed, it felt like that staff was being put together for Chris Kiffin. I know that there was some buzz about T-Rob, who obviously went to UGA today. Both you nor I ever really heard that from anybody that we kind of trusted inside the complex. And if you look at it, you've got two back-end guys now in Crime and Charles Kelly, who have extensive experience in the secondary. I don't think you're looking to bring in another back-end guy. He's definitely going to be a front seven guy, and that fits the criteria of what both Arnett and Kiffin are. So, I think they both mesh from where you stand from kind of who you've already got on your coaching staff, and they'll be able to blend together. I am working on one other name, and I'll kind of talk to you about that one offline. I don't want to throw that one out tonight.
All right.
But I think could also be an option should they get beyond that. But it's definitely a front seven guy, and I think that's where they're looking. And like I said, with the extensive history of the guys that you've got in the back end there, you've got that part covered between Crime and Charles Kelly.
Yeah.
You don't need to bring in the back end guy.
I love Crime coming back. Or I don't know how you look at it, if he came back or if he just never left. But he did a little deal on Texas A&M. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, no doubt. But Crime means a lot. And I thought your note was just perfect in the fact that the team gave him a standing ovation when he came back in.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of these kids that love Crime.
Love
He's
him.
good for the staff.
He might be the most popular coach there.
I would agree with that. I think he potentially is. And he's the kind of guy that, he mixes up on staff. He keeps things loose. He keeps the kids loose. But he also knows ball, and they respect him for his approach, and they respect him for the way that he handles himself, does things. I mean, it obviously was uncomfortable for him after the situation between him and Roberts, where it became kind of untenable for the two to be able to work with one another. So getting him back, letting him kind of get, back, mesh extremely well with Charles Kelly, who I've heard has already made a really positive influence in that front office there. And with the kids, that he's just kind of come in with this workman-like attitude. He's very easy to get along with. He's grinding on the trail already. He does all the things that you want. And listen, as far as a Rolodex goes, there's not a high school coach in the state of Alabama or South Georgia that Charles Kelly can't pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
He knows absolutely everybody. So that's going to help you imperatively from a recruiting standpoint, specifically from the relational aspect of things, but also knowing where you can go and where you can't go to recruit. Like I know that people would think this blasphemy that a coach with Auburn on his shirt can't go into a certain place and be an effective recruiter. That still happens, guys. There are schools that Auburn's, it's just not necessarily a place that you can go and get a lot of results. Charles Kelly knows he's a smart recruiter. He knows where you can go pluck that talent and how to get it.
Yeah, he was already here today at Junior Day doing his thing.
Definitely.
So Saban retires. Ryan Williams decommits. At this point, do you feel like Auburn's got an even better lead or bigger lead on Ryan Williams being able to get him?
Absolutely, I do. And look, Caitlin DeBoer was a really good hire for Alabama. I think anybody trashing that hire is probably, casting out a false narrative. I think he's going to be really good for him. But the relational aspect's not there. I also think from an NIL perspective, Auburn's going to make him an offer that is going to be hard to refuse. Marcus Davis, at this point, is probably the coach that he has the closest relationship with, being that T-Rob is now at UGA, and that was the other recruiter that he was extremely tight with. And then you think about it, Holloman Wiggins, who was the wide receivers coach at Alabama that he also had a good relationship with, is at Texas A&M. I don't consider Texas A&M a real player for him at this point. I think it probably comes down to Texas and Auburn, and at this point I lean very heavily towards Auburn being able to seal that deal. I love the fact that we have the last visit. I think it gives Hugh the opportunity to be in front of his parents, give the final presentation of what he's going to see live and in person, and for him to get all of the attention and for everything to be all about Ryan Williams here at Auburn, and he can sell him on the Freeze 5, what he's going to be able to do with Perry and Cam on the outside of him, how he's going to be featured. And look, the best thing that happened to us in Ryan Williams' recruitment was Walker White going out to the All-American game and being the best quarterback out there and absolutely balling out. So it's not like Alabama, you have to be able to sell the future to Ryan Williams if you're Auburn. You have to be able to show, hey, this is going to be able to get you the ball. And I think they'll probably be able to talk about what Peyton has done when he's had the proper weapons around him at Michigan State, even though that's a hard sell right now. But the easy sell is, hey, this is what Hank Brown did at the bowl game. This is what Walker White's capable of, and he's going to be the future for you.
Good point. I hadn't even thought about Walker White balling out there, balling out in San Antonio, and Brian Williams being able to see it and say, hey, that's a guy I can partner with,
That's right.
In theory.
In theory, correct.
Because I don't think Ryan Williams is going to play college ball forever.
Negative,
he's
big
really
dog.
good.
We're talking 3 years max, and he's gone to the league. I firmly believe Ryan Williams is a generational talent. I mean, I truly do. And listen, the reviews that came back on Cam Coleman, from the Under Armour All-American game, I mean, I don't know if anybody paid attention. And obviously I'm getting a little bit of intel from this. Some people aren't. But what he did to Ellis Robinson, who might be the best corner in high school this past year, who signed with UGA, he absolutely mossed him and dominated him in practice. Okay, that just doesn't happen. He's going to be a dude. So don't, just because we're talking about Ryan Williams right now, I don't want to sell Cam Coleman short as far as what he's capable of that X position with his balance, body control, his ability to get vertical. Hughes really recruited some special talent in this class. I mean, he truly has at the premium positions. And if you get Ryan to top that off, this is an A-plus class, and there's no question about it.
It might be the greatest wide receiver class ever signed in college football. I mean, honestly.
I mean, look, who could you, if they all pan out, now obviously they got to pan out, but man, it would be hard to discuss somebody else that may be a different class. Maybe the Alabama class that had Ruggs and a handful of those other guys in it. I think they were all in the same class. But other than that, man, I mean, you're talking about rarefied air, that's for sure. And definitely the best wide receiver class at Auburn.
And we didn't mention Perry. We didn't mention Bryce. I mean, those are Malcolm Simmons. Those guys have a chance to be studs too. So, yeah, the depth there at wideout is crazy. It's exactly opposite of what was last year.
The absolute exact. And you had to flip this for me. I mean, look, I heard your interview that you did earlier this week with Cole Kubelik and with Greg McElroy.
Greg McElroy, yeah.
And I thought that Greg said it perfectly, that this was the absolute worst wide receiver room in the entire SEC, and he was right.
Well, he said that, and I go, no, you mean the country.
And it's true, man.
It was bad.
My Lord, look, I love the Waffle House crew claiming they're open all day, every day, or 24/7. But it wasn't true.
Yeah, it wasn't true at all.
And it wasn't true. And so, I mean, it kind of is what it is. And I know that, look, I've said probably some disheartening things about Peyton as far as his play and how he had a really bad bowl performance. But at the end of the day, honestly, he really didn't have much around him. Now, I don't know how much better he can be, because there are some things he did from a mental standpoint, mistakes you just can't make. Interceptions that he threw this year, like, what were you looking at? But be that as it may, he potentially gives us the best option moving forward. But I think you got to make it an open competition, and, you'll see. If one of the young guys is better, you got to play him. Otherwise, you're going to lose the team.
Yeah. J-Head, you've given us another long stay on the phone, and we love having you here, bro. You can talk about everything. That's what I love about you. Maybe we'll talk about rocket science next time, see what you think about that. You
know what? I think I can get into some aerodynamics as far as what we can do from rocket angle trajectory and everything else.
Whoa.
But one other thing, let's get this in. Left tackle, Percy Lewis, absolute game changer for this offensive line. I think everybody needs to be excited about this one. This makes two positions better on your offensive line. You now have a starting left guard in Dylan Wade who's going to be able to do what he's best at, which is maul people at the point of attack. And you make your pass set is significantly better from the left-hand side now. Your pass pro as a line is going to be significantly better by that one addition. And I would love for them to add one other body to create some more competition on the interior. But as far as transfer portal pickups go, Percy Lewis, number one pickup in my honest opinion, and it's not even all that close because of what the impact that it generates.
Yeah, absolutely clutch position. They had to have a left tackle. So, and that lets Dylan Wade play inside where he's probably going to be better. So, all good news there.
I agree.
All right, J-Head, you're an absolute stud, as always. Thank you for spending part of your night with us.
No, thank you, buddy. As always, I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be on the platform. Love you. Hope you and the administrative assistant have a great night. And everybody in the chat, enjoy this win, guys.
All right, J-Head. Love you, brother.
Later, buddy.
See you, man. Bye. There he is, J-Head. How would I rate the quality of this call, Newman? 5 stars. Love having J-Head here in the clubhouse hanging out. Wow. the aerodynamics thing threw me a little bit. I was being facetious, and yes, he actually knows about stuff like that. So thank you to J-Head. What a stud. We love him. A couple of things he was mentioning. Percy Lewis. He sounds a little higher on Percy Lewis than I am. He's definitely a left tackle. He's 6'8", and he can play the position. He played the position at Mississippi State. But I'm not saying PFF is the be-all, end-all, but PFF did not give him particularly high marks for his work at Mississippi State. And, I mean, if he's getting coached up here by, better folks, and maybe he's just kind of energized by transitioning to a team that's got a higher ceiling than where he was, all that kind of stuff, he can certainly be better. I think the kid from San Jose State would have been a better one, and that was from the era when they weren't portaling very well. I think they're doing a better job now. They realized that they weren't getting on kids quickly enough. I think they're getting on kids quickly now. But anyway, Nick A says, JG, the bad man is gone. We still need a quarterback. I'm with you, Nick. Walker White being great at the All-American game, which Jay had mentioned, that is a huge development. I still don't know if that's enough. So the Tigre says, didn't he only allow like 2 to 3 sacks and 300 or 400 pass sets? I mean, yeah, they were throwing a bunch, at least for the early part of his career. Yeah. I mean, again, PFF can be misleading, and I honestly didn't watch much Mississippi State this year at all, so I can't speak authoritatively on Percy's, highs and lows. But on PFF, I think his season grade was like a 60-ish, 62, something like that. So, I mean, it's not awful. But Crocky Poo says number 12 offensive tackle in the conference. And then Crocky Poo says, check out my breakdown on his PFF grade. They're usually tough overall on SEC offensive tackles. He was actually pretty good. But 12th tackle in the conference doesn't sound super good. I know everybody's got 2 starters, and maybe some teams have a good third one. So that would probably put him in like 5th team all SEC or something like that. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here. Brock says, in Crocky Poo we trust, and I really like what Crocky Poo does too. So just want to say that. I did not read that particular breakdown though, Croc. Also wanted to mention that Justin Rogers is going to go pro or attempt to go pro. To me, that's kind of a loss. I know it's easy to sit there and be reactive and say, hey, man, this former 5-star guy comes in from Kentucky, wasn't able to beat out Jason Jones, didn't play particularly awesome this year. I still just think that I'm still kind of waiting for him to click. I think that he's better than he has shown, and I think for him it's kind of a mentality thing, and you just keep thinking it's going to click, and I don't necessarily think it clicked here, and I don't understand. I mean, he's going to go pro, and I suspect that he will test well in a combine environment, but I just wonder if his lack of production, both at Kentucky and at Auburn, is going to hold him down. I think he'll be a free agent type player, and I think he'd be better served playing at Auburn. But at some point, college maybe isn't for everybody. Let's see. Stupub says being the 10th or 12th best offensive tackle in the league would put him in the top half. Yeah, that's certainly true. So that's good. And sorry, guys. He mentions that it's better than what Auburn has had lately, which is true. I mean, the last time Auburn had a really major player at tackle was probably Braden. And honestly, Braden is probably he plays guard a lot in the NFL, and that's probably what he is. He's probably a great guard. So you think back in the old days, Auburn had a bunch of really good tackles. Marcus McNeil is one that really stands out to me. Greg Robinson was such a freak athlete that kind of got derailed in the NFL for off-the-field stuff, but he remains probably the most freakish athlete I've ever seen myself at offensive line. He's just unbelievably gifted as an athlete, or was, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention. Well, here, let me bounce over here to this page where I have it, just the basics, the inbound, outbound stuff. I don't have a lot to add. J-Head didn't really want to talk too much about Carnell and Zach, and I feel the same way. We got some super chats that came through. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know I was babbling, and I missed it. Feel like a stranger. Oh, so Auburn Dad for life. Absolute stud. Says, sup to the best hair on the air. JG, appreciate you, bro. I know that came through right as I was starting the call with J-Head, so I apologize for not getting to you a little bit sooner, my G. I feel like a stranger jumps in as well. Says, I want J-Head to be my hype man when I grow up. J-Head's just good people, man. It's a pleasure. I'm just texting with him during the day, and he's just such a nice person. And I love his approach. He has scruples. He gives a shit about people, and that's what I really, really like about J-Head. So, yeah, he'd be a hell of a hype man for sure. Jackson also jumps in with another super chat. Go through the rest of games, wins, losses, including SEC tournament. Let's see. I think I could probably do that. I will get to that, though. Hold on. I'm going to write it down. I still want to talk about this stuff first, though. I'll write it down, though. We will get to that. Okay, so Carnell and Zach. I know less about, I said this on the bunker, I know less about Zach's situation than I do Carnell's. That's just tough, man. What bothers me a little bit is that Carnell, first things first, Carnell is a great human being. He's one of my favorite people I've ever covered. And it drives me crazy, the people that criticize Carnell because they say they can't understand him. Pisses me off like you wouldn't believe. He's from the country. I had a hard time understanding him too when he was a freshman. The problem is me, not him. Because the things he says are brilliant. I mean, he's a smart person. I think his eye for talent at tailback is amazing. I think he does a good job recruiting tailbacks. He doesn't miss on tailbacks very much. Now, you could argue that he missed on Quinshawn a little bit, but I think it was just kind of a matter of ranking them. He's like, hey, there's some guys I like. There's some guys I like better than Quinshawn. It wasn't that he just said Quinshawn sucks. He just likes some other guys better. Part of the issue with Carnell as a recruiter was that he was very good at recruiting, or he had a passion for recruiting tailbacks, but he didn't necessarily have that same passion for recruiting other positions. And I think in some circles that was a bother. I feel like Freeze wants every single person on his staff to be at least a B-plus recruiter, if not just like straight up A recruiter. He feels like he needs that. And so when you look at these inbound people, so Charles Kelly, to me, is an A recruiter. He is a grade A recruiter. And Crime is a grade A recruiter. Crime also is very, very popular with players. He's just a guy you got to have, and that's why Freeze continued to work on him even when he had announced, or when A&M had announced that he was leaving for them. He was like, I'm not letting you go without, I'm going to go to the ends of the earth to keep you here. And ultimately it worked out. Back to the Carnell thing. When people say he's dumb, it just drives me crazy. He's not. I've had 200 conversations with Carnell in my life. He's not dumb. He just sounds country. And if you can't understand people who talk country, that's a problem with you. That's not a problem with him. And he's a good man, and he's a good tailbacks coach. And I hope things work out really well for him, because I just feel strongly about him as a person. Everybody's got biases. I've been very upfront with the bunker about how much I like Carnell as a person. I still feel that way about him. What's gone on here doesn't change my opinion of him. The end. Zacchaeus Etheridge, who I've known since he played at Charles Henderson back many, many years ago. I just don't know as much about his situation. And he ended up resigning the next morning. The assumption is that he's going to go to Houston and coach there with the Cougars under the new coach, Willie Frist, whom he knows personally. So I think Zach will land on his feet there pretty quickly, assuming he goes to Houston. I think that will happen. I don't know about Carnell. I don't know where he's going. But, I mean, losing Zacchaeus, that's a loss. He was a very good recruiter, and he is someone who's always on. He's thinking about things all the time, and he's kind of a mad scientist. I give Hoke credit for that too. Hoke's a guy that just thinks about things all the time, and that's a good thing to have. It's a good trait to have, and Zacchaeus is certainly one of those people. I wrote something 3 weeks ago, I think, that I thought that Zacchaeus was going to be leaving, and he didn't like it, and he let me know how he felt about it. Although he's very polite about it, he kept insisting that he wasn't going anywhere, and I relented and I killed the thread, which I rarely do. Ultimately, he did leave, for what it's worth. Charles Kelly's a guy that I don't know him personally. He's been connected with openings here several times through the years. He's from, obviously he was a player at Auburn in the late 80s. I don't think he played a lot, but he was on the team. Kind of like a Champ Anthony type player. I mean, hey, man, it's a lot better than I ever did. And he did all the work. So to me, he's a full Auburn guy. There were some people in the bunker that were like, well, he didn't play that much. Who gives a shit? He's an Auburn graduate, period. I don't know what else I need to tell you. He's from down this way. He's from Lower Alabama. Coached at Florida State, coached at Alabama, was at Colorado last year. And J-Head made a reference during his call. If you're talking about a Rolodex, that guy's got one. And I've been critical, I think, of this staff, football staff, where when kids get in the portal, I think one of the easiest ways to get your claws on a kid real quick in the portal is to have a pre-existing relationship with him, right? Like, think about the kid from Penn, the defensive lineman. I think ended up going to Florida, if I remember correctly. They really wanted him. Nobody fucking knows him. Nobody on Auburn's staff knows him. So they cold call him, and he's just like, okay, Auburn, great. You know what I mean? When a kid like Antonio Kite goes in the portal, like he did earlier today or last night, who's a defensive back from Alabama, Charles Kelly knows him. Charles Kelly helped recruit him from Anniston High School to Alabama. Now, you're not just Auburn, you're Charles Kelly. And that helps a lot. I felt like the old staff, I hate to say old staff, Freeze's staff version 1.0, where you've got like Montgomery and you've got Ron Roberts. It didn't have as deep a Rolodex, right? Although Philip Montgomery played a central role in getting Dylan Wade here, who's a good football player, and also Muskrat, which I think he still has some good football ahead of him. Stuff like that helps. Auburn Dad for Life says he played for Dye. He did indeed. I think it's a good hire. He's going to be a really good recruiter, and he's a credible defensive coach. He's going to be a co-defensive coordinator. Something else that was said earlier in the chat, I don't know who it was. We're saying, how bad does Ron Roberts have to suck for him to not be able to get along with crime? I want to kind of address that a little bit. Now, Roberts is an opinionated, assertive human being, which you would expect from a defensive coordinator. And he got into it on the field with crime. Coaches do this. This is not unusual. You're on the field, this, that, the other things happen, and you kind of get at each other. And I think that happened a few times. I think it's wrong to characterize crime's problem, the reason he left for Texas A&M, to be Ron Roberts. I do not think that's what it was. I'll just say I don't think that's what it was. It was something else. Malcolm says, who's the defensive coordinator? I guess right now it would be Charles Kelly, but I think they're going to still hire somebody else, whether it's Zach Arnett or Chris Kiffin, and I think that person will also be co-DC and probably will be the play caller. I think they're still trying to hire the person who's going to be the real coordinator, Charles Kelly can do it. He did it at Florida State. He did it at Colorado. And he's a great guy to have providing coaching depth, I guess, But I don't know that he's going to be, your A1 DC. I think they still got to hire that person. Let's see. Caduman says he has as good a Rolodex as there is out there, and he has strong ties to a lot of the high schools here in the state for sure and around this area of the country. I respect with respect to his dad, who's also a stud too. So, good point. Knuman says, yes, coaches do that. However, it rarely results in moving the coach off the field midseason. That is not anywhere close to normal. So here's the thing on that. Yes, Crime went off the field, and he was the czar of accountability, which is unusual. But if Crime was the problem, okay, then why is Ron Roberts gone, and why is Zacchaeus Etheridge gone, and Crime is back? And he didn't just make it. He didn't just like win the war of attrition. He left. And Freeze begged for him to stay and worked behind the scenes ardently, doggedly, to ensure that Crime gets back here. If Crime's the problem, Hugh would not have worked like that to keep him or to get him back, depending on how you look at it. Knuman says, I did not say Crime left because of Roberts. I wasn't trying to pin that on you. That's just a common narrative that we see on the bunker a lot of. He said, I asked how big of a douche canoe does Roberts have to be to go so far as having to remove him from the field. I still stick with what I said. I wasn't trying to misrepresent what you had said, and I apologize if it came off that way. Crime is not the problem. I would also argue that Roberts isn't the problem, but that's just my opinion. Chip in the house. What's up, Chip? I referenced you on the bunker the other day. Somebody was talking about, are these moves good or bad or whatever, and I said, Brud, I'm in the wins and losses. I'm in the ones and zeros, and that's where you are on this stuff, and you've kind of swayed me. So I'm with you. I don't give a shit about grading a coaching hire. I just care about wins and losses. And if you win 8 next year or 9 next year, you're Gucci. And if you win 6 next year, you're not Gucci. And that's that. That's that. Warrior 19 says, I thought Keontae is staying. What, has something changed in the last hour? Keontae is staying. And I think that was way overblown. Well, Knuman says, then who's the problem? Well, I guess you'd have to say Zach is the problem. Because, there's only 2 guys gone on the defensive side of the ball. So it's either Ron Roberts or Zach Etheridge. Jay had talked about, I don't remember what word he used, esprit de corps or chemistry on the coaching staff or something. He thought it took a step forward. And Crime's been re-added, so he obviously doesn't think that he's part of the problem. Auburn Dad for Life says, peeps just have a difference of opinion. It doesn't make them bad peeps. I would agree. Sometimes I don't agree with B-Matt, but I love B-Matt. He's a good, principled human being. I usually agree with Stoltze, though, except for his awful, pop culture takes are terrible. But when we're texting about Auburn stuff, me and Paul Stoltze are almost always in line. Knuman says, so Zach was the reason Crime was moved off the field. I don't know. That's for you to figure out. I don't know. I just don't know enough about it, I guess. Chip says, who cares? Doesn't matter who the problem is or was. Hugh thinks he's going to get more W's with this lineup, and we'll see. Yeah. I think I like that. Hayden says you can disagree philosophically and get along as friends. At the same time, hell yeah, you can. Of course. That's the way a properly moded human being operates, in my opinion. My friends, I don't agree with everything they do or say or think. It's fine. Sometimes I learn from stuff. That's how you learn. If I sat in a room my whole life and hung out with people that were just like me, I would never grow because I would just think the same things. But I hang out with people who don't always agree with me, and so that's how I learn. They challenge me to think about things in a different way. And I was just talking about Chip and his ones and zeros kind of thing, wins and losses. Like that. That's an idea that a year ago wouldn't have made sense to me. I'd be like, no, there's a lot of nuance in there, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I think he's onto something there. Uncle B says, what are we thinking about OC? That's a great question. So Hugh's going to call plays. I think Ken Austin will end up being the quarterback's coach. So I think ideally they would get Derek Nix, but Lane Kiffin has been doing his Twitter trolling about holding on to Derek Nix, who's an important part of the enterprise over at Ole Miss. I don't know. I don't know Derek Nix at all, and I don't know what he values. If he values money, my guess is that he doesn't value money as highly as other things because he would have left Ole Miss by now. He's been there forever. He was there like when Hugh was there, and he's still there. And he's damn good at what he does. Derek Nix, yes. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I think he would love to have him. I think Lane Kiffin also values him highly, so we'll just have to see how that works out. But he, again, as we talked about it, he was trying to build the best recruiting staff he can possibly get. And Derek Nix is a massive upgrade, recruiting-wise, over Monty. Huge. Now, is he a better coach than Philip Montgomery? I don't even know how to judge that. It doesn't necessarily matter that much because Hugh's going to be calling the plays. And one more thing before I get to that super chat from... Now, here, let me get the super chat first. Moby Alum, one of our channel legends. What's up, girl? Says, hey, JG, were you doing the happy dance when Saban retired? I was not. I like Saban. I've interviewed him, I think, 4 times, one-on-one, and he's great. He's just a classy, intelligent, well-adjusted individual, in my opinion. I really, really enjoyed the times that I spoke with him because he's just a very bright individual. So I'm not trying to glorify him or anything. I'm just saying my experiences with him, and each time I met with him, well, the last time he remembered me, I guess because of my hair, but the first 3 times I always identify myself as I cover Auburn. I want him to know right out front where I'm coming from. He didn't treat me any weird or make any shitty comments or anything like that. I think he's just judging each person by the questions they ask. I will say this. I did kind of do a flex in the bunker about this the other day. I knew on Monday he was leaving, though. And I texted some people about it, some Bama friends of mine, and they blew me off. But they shouldn't have. Because that chatter was wide open. As really on Sunday is when I started hearing about it. The first time I heard about it was Sunday, but on Monday I was like, this is going to go down, I think. Also, she said, do you think the new coach will be a good recruiter? If he's not, then I think they're in trouble. The new coach, which one? You talking about Charles Kelly? Because I think he's a grade A recruiter. He's done some really good work recruiting, and I think he's the kind of guy that's very personable, and he can relate to people very easily. It's something that Hugh's really good at, too. Let's see. Hayden says, I'm glad he's retired. But just like you, I actually like Saban. I think he's funny. But glad he's retired, yeah. He is. He's a very credible human being, in my opinion. And my experience with him has been that way. You'll never hear me saying a bad word about the guy. Because he's a good dude. I would say the same thing about Les Miles. He's a good guy. I like Les Miles. I mean, he's long gone now, but I haven't really interacted with Kirby. Can't really speak to him. You know how I feel about Will Muschamp. Oh, Mobile Alum's talking about Kalen. Is that right? Is his name Kalen? It's DeBoer. I know that. Wow. That is, if I was a Bammer, I would be bumming. They got turned down a lot. And I think, let's say we were just spitballing 2 years ago, and you think to yourself, when you're just spitballing, you're saying, well, you don't want to be the guy that follows Saban because he's set such an incredibly high threshold for what I would consider to be Alabama adequacy, right? To be adequate in Alabama, you got to win 10 games. And that's a high, high level. And we could talk about Auburn's expectations too, because they should be higher, in my opinion, but it should be the same. But you think you don't want to be the guy to follow Saban. But then when it actually happens and Saban's actually leaving and Alabama's actually open and they're actually going to pay somebody $10 million or whatever, the calculus changes a little bit there, right? And I assumed that people would want to take the Alabama job. I think in the end, some big guys did not want that job, including Lane, including Sark, including Dan Lanning. So they ended up getting DeBoer, who I think is a very good football coach. I do. To have the success that he's had at all those levels, because he coached in NAIA. He was basically coaching at Transylvania, not too long ago. He's got to have something. He's got to know. He's got to know ball. But I think your point is a good one, Mobile alum. Can he recruit? Don't know. I don't really think of him as a big-time recruiter, but he's certainly got enough money to hire him now. My best guess is that he's just not quite good enough. I think he's going to end up being like a good coach, but not a great coach. And they'll run him because they're going to keep looking for Saban, And I think the closest thing to Saban out there is Dan Lanning. And even there, you can kind of question it a little bit. I mean, he's still very, very young, but Kuduman says Bama was going to pay Lanning's $20 million buyout. I mean, look, dude, I don't cover Alabama. You know that. So I don't know, and I'm not reporting anything. I'm just telling you what the chatter is. Let's see. Matt N says, to hear the talking heads in Birmingham, they got their guy. Ryan Brown was mad at Danny Cannell for saying they missed on a couple guys, trying to spin it, saying they got just who they wanted. There's no way. There's no, again, I'm talking on my ass when we talk about Alabama coaching searches because I'm an Auburn writer and I worry about Auburn. That's all I do. So let me get that out front. You guys know that. But fuck, man, really? The Washington coach who's not from here? Like, really? I can't believe that. Let's see. Uncle Ob says, does Hugh stay as directly involved in recruiting next year? Absolutely. I think that's his favorite. I think he has developed a passion for recruiting now. He just really likes doing it. And he's really good at it. I think he likes it because he's good at it. He's very relatable. He's like Gus in a lot of ways. And it's kind of eerie how much like Gus he is. But there's a huge difference in those two men. They're both paranoid and they're both awkward, but Hugh can relate to people and Gus can't, and that's the big difference between those two guys. I was going to say one thing about Hugh. I was having this conversation with one of my confidants the other day. You listen to Dabo, and here I even got a Dabo soundbite on here.
And I ain't going to let some smart-ass kid get on this phone and create this stuff. So if you got a problem with it, I don't care, all right?
Some of the things that come out of Hugh's mouth sound a whole lot like Dabo, particularly when he talks about portal. It seems like he doesn't like portal recruiting. It seems like they're not very good at portal recruiting, although adding Percy was big. And I mean, they got their quarterback through the portal, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder sometimes if Hugh has gotten dullened, the sharpness of Hugh has been dullened by the trouble at Ole Miss, the fallout from the Ole Miss thing, and that it is the guy from Spartanburg, Uncle Ob. It's exactly, I forgot his first name. Tyler, is it Tyler from Spartanburg? I forgot who got him going on it. Tyler, yeah, there it is. Tyler from Spartanburg. Perfect. One of my all-time favorite coaching calls, by the way. And it turns out the dude was legit. Like, everybody thought this would be like a fake caller, and he ended up being exactly who he said he was. His name was Tyler, and he lived in Spartanburg. And his military service was real and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I just feel like Hugh is... I don't know how to word this. Oh, let me get... Mobile Alum had a super chat coming through. Maybe it'd be a great question I could just riff off of. Saban she's never met Saban. How is Saban being in the building going to work? Yeah, that's going to be weird, right? Or at least potentially. To be fair, I mean, Coach Ty had an office at Auburn until he died. Now, it was over in the basketball arena, or later it was. I don't think Saban's is going to be in the basketball arena, but it's odd. But if Saban makes it so that it's not odd, it would be good then. It just depends on. I don't know anything about DeBoer as a human being. Maybe he can collaborate with Saban. I just don't know. It seems like it would be tough, but again, I have a lot of respect for Saban. He could probably make this work. Toolman says, you could date this great new girl, but her ex lives in the basement. Small-time Republic says, sometimes Hugh looks like the joy is gone. You know, that's one way to put it. It might be a better way to put it than what I said about being dullened. Because I don't mean intelligence-wise. I just mean, like, I feel like he is so concerned with, like, his soul. And he's never said these words to me. I'm explaining this in my own words. It's like he's so concerned with his soul and being a good person that it turns him into a tentative individual. And head football coaches, particularly at this level, I don't think they can be tentative. I don't think they can be tentative. So I think this current version of Hugh, I just don't know that he's like this. He's not a marauder. Now, will he be a marauder? I don't know. I think you almost have to be, though. Keithner jumps in and says, JG, maybe I missed it. What's going to be the role for Trevon Reed? Right, so he's out doing some recruiting right now on the road. He went out to see Ryan Williams. He was part of that posse that went down there with Marcus. And so he's out on the road recruiting. He's a great ambassador for Auburn. He's still very young, so he relates to people well. Particularly, he's from Louisiana, so he talks great with those kids. You know, he can kind of, hey, I know LSU's pulling you here, but I went to Auburn, and let me explain to you why I love this place. I mean, he can relate. The problem for T. Reed is that he's not really being considered for a position coach role, and he doesn't have any experience there, and I just don't know. I don't know what his next step's going to be. I don't know what he's aiming for. I think he wants to be a coach. I think he wants to be on the field, and if he's going to do that, he's going to have to go somewhere else. I mean, he's going to follow along the way that like Jay Wall is now at Kansas, and Marcus went to, like, where was it, Hawaii, and where else? Marcus is Georgia Southern. You have to kind of work your way up. So I think T. Reed's still in the same role right now. He is on the road recruiting, so I guess that's kind of an elevation in a way, but I don't think it's going to stick. I think it's just kind of there because they need him right now doing that. But a good Auburn guy, for sure. Thanks for the super chat, Keither. Good stuff. Going back to the thing with God dang it. With Hugh. I just think he's so concerned over that, over his soul, so to speak, and being a good person and not, like, making sure that he eliminates the impurities of his life. Do you know what I mean? And he makes sound decisions all the time. You know what I mean? It's a noble approach. Like, it's what we should be doing as human beings. I'm not arguing that. I do it myself. But when you're trying to win big at Auburn in the SEC, you're going to have to lie sometimes. And you're going to have to do some things that don't necessarily jive with the spirit of the law. And for some people, that's not even a second thought. And for other people, it weighs on them. And I think Hugh is a person now where that stuff weighs on him. So it gives me pause sometimes. He is still a tremendous recruiter. It actually, I think, makes him a better recruiter. But on the coaching side, I think that sometimes he lets things slide too much. And in my opinion, all the stuff this fall, when he kept kind of throwing Phillip under the bus, and I don't look at that as anything that Montgomery did wrong. I look at that as mismanagement from Hugh. Now, I'm not shitting on him. He's done great work for Auburn. And if he loses every game next year, which he won't do, but if he did, he still has added a ton of talent to this roster. So he's fixing Auburn. He is unfucking Auburn from all the stuff that Harsin did. So there's no doubt about it. He's good. He's doing good work. J. Ellis Sr. says Hugh needs to go scorched earth. I mean, kind of. I mean, that's you're going all the way to the end of one on the continuum there, but, like, yes, you have to be fiery. And when Montgomery's putting out an offense that you don't like, you've got to fix it right then and there. And if there's guys in your staff who are cancers, you need to eliminate them or squelch them or demote them or get them out. You can't just be like, well, whatever. No, that's not okay. Matt says, I feel like these new moves and hires is a good sign. I think the crime thing is. Now, I think Charles Kelly's a plus. I do. Just the Cornell thing, it's always going to bother me, man. It's always going to bother me. Always going to bother me. Mobile Lum jumped in. Maybe Hugh felt tentative because he had so much to juggle. He felt overwhelmed. I think that's part of it. I think he felt enormous pressure because of I don't think he realized how bad Auburn was when he got here, honestly. He knew Auburn more like as a organization, like, okay, because his daughter went here. He knew about Auburn as a school. He knew about Auburn as a place. He knew about Auburn as the people at Auburn, which are, they sell themselves. I mean, Auburn is a place with good folks. This is a great part of the country. I have friends of mine friends that I meet when we go on our trips down in the Caribbean that are from other countries and stuff. And they're like, why would you live in the South? I go, the people in the South are amazing. And you know how it is. Oh, they're just racists and stuff. I'm like, come on, man. There's racists everywhere, first of all. And second of all, there's the only place in the country where people still give a shit about each other. So, and being down in Auburn, you get that. I get that. But I don't think he knew how bad Harsin had set it back. And I just think he naively didn't really think much of it. Like, he knew he'd screwed it up, but he was like, we'll fix it, no problem. But he got here, and it was at 0. You know what I mean? It's a smoldering mess. And I think Hugh and his staff have done a great job of putting the fire out and rebuilding the house is what they're doing. And I like to give them hell on their portal misses, and they had a bunch in this last series. But their high school recruiting has been amazing. And I think their culture, they've shifted the culture back into a positive direction. So he's done great work. And I would personally give him probably the job that Hugh has done in his first 13 months at Auburn. I would have a hard time not giving him, I have to give him at least a B. I would say B plus, A minus. Now, the reason I wouldn't give him an A or A plus is I was just talking about me. I was bothered by the mismanagement on offense last year. That really bothered me. And so for me, that's a big minus. And I think he's too honest and open for his own good. But that, I don't know if that really counts in the grade. But wins and losses, 6 wins. I mean, come on, guys. You're the Auburn coach. 6 wins is not good enough. So I can't go any higher than an A minus. Chip says B plus, and I would be fine with that. Ravin says, JG, is there a way or can there be a way for Cadillac to come back in the future? My gut says no, but I'd love to see it. And I hope that someday, 20 years from now, there's an event at Jordan-Hare and they celebrate the 2004 team that went undefeated, and they announce him and everybody cheers. I hope that that's what happens because I think he's an Auburn legend and he's a good dude. Let's see. Auburn Dad for Life says Zach went where his girlfriend's dad is coach. That's true. If he indeed has gone. Guys, I don't know. Did he go to Houston? Is that done? And he was recruiting up until he announced the move. Cadillac hurts, but hopefully he goes to the NFL to get more experience and come back. Yeah, I don't see him coming back here, but it could happen. Matt says can't lose to New Mexico State. Yeah, that's what a great point. That's why I can't do. I think some people would give him an A or an A plus because of this. I mean, if he pulls Ryan Williams and caps off that amazing recruiting class, I mean, shit, that's really doing something. They've already put together an amazing class. It exceeded my expectations, but you still lost to New Mexico State, and they still fumbled the bag against Alabama. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a playoff team. You got a 4th and goal from the 31, and you fucked it up. Did Hugh fuck it up? No. But it's his ship. He's the Commodore of that ship. And when that ship blows up, he's got his hands on the wheel. But he's done great work. And I think teams, coaches are legitimately worried about the talent that he's amassing at Auburn. So, yeah. Taxman says they should build a statue to Cadillac. He's meant more to this school than almost anyone. I don't know about that, man. He is a stud, though. Don't get me wrong. I don't like being in a position where I have to naysay somebody on that. But, I mean, think about the people who have statues. Cam Newton, okay. Greatest single season in the history of college football, in my opinion. Number 1 pick in the NFL. NFL All-Pro. Got to a Super Bowl. And kind of a cult of personality. He's just a big-time... Everybody knows who Cam Newton is. Might think he's weird. But to me, still the greatest single season in the history of college football. Pat Sullivan won a Heisman and just doesn't get enough credit for being just a humanitarian and an amazing human being. And Frank Thomas, who, for probably 15 years was the greatest right-handed hitter in baseball. NFL MVP, Knuman, thank you for that. And he's a stud. Charles Barkley, I don't even know he's just amazing. Probably done more, for Auburn after his career ended, but he was still an amazing NBA player, one of the top 50 players of all time, and a great sports personality. So, I don't think Cadillac's in that group. But Bo Jackson, I don't even know what you say about Bo. He's the greatest. Probably the greatest athlete America's ever seen. Happened to play baseball at a high level and football at a high level. Won a Heisman. You could argue single-handedly brought Auburn back from losing to Alabama all the time in the 70s and kind of catapulted Auburn ahead, which was very needed. So, yeah, I just don't think Carnell's in that level. But I do like him a lot. He's a very, very, very popular person. Carnell is. More popular than Frank Thomas. More popular than Cam. Less popular than Chuck. And then Pat Sullivan's kind of a niche product, right? Because all Auburn people know him. But as we get older, right? Like, Pat's gone now. And I think there's a young generation of Auburn fans who don't really know Pat Sullivan. They know him, as the guy in the number 7 jersey from the old days. But, it gets lost somewhere along the way. Let's see. Knuman says Mahomes' helmet was cracked. What a fun game to watch. Wow, that game, I cannot believe they're playing in those conditions. 5 degrees, or minus 5 degrees maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Page 69 says, did I miss the portal quarterback discussion? We didn't really go into that. No. I saw where Cam Ward, who said he was going to the NFL, actually turned around and said he's going to go to Miami now. So I guess he really wanted to go somewhere extra mid. But no, I didn't really have much to add on that one. Mobile Alum jumped in with another super chat. Says, JG, what's our basketball team's ceiling? Do you think there's a chance we peak too early? Great point, young lady. Let me, and Jackson had asked about this earlier. Sorry, I was getting going about football and shit. Let me kill this out. I'm going to screenshot the Ken Palm for the... I'm sorry, guys. I'm still coughing. I'm going to screenshot this Ken Palm, and we're going to go through this, okay? I can tell you right off the top, though, I think Auburn's ceiling is a national championship. I think so. This team's got all the pieces that I think you've got to have to put that together. But as Jay had said, and I have said before on the show, it's about matchups in the NCAA tournament. All right, so here's what Auburn's Ken Palm page looks like, their CV as of this point. And you can see there, Ken Palm's algorithm only has Auburn losing 2 more games, an away game at Alabama and an away game at Tennessee. Tennessee, to me, is not quite as good. Ken Palm's got him as number 7, and I'm not sure about that. Alabama's a weird team. I don't even know how to quantify them right now. They have a ton of talent, and they're not playing well. But you'd think at some point they're going to unfuck themselves, and they're going to be a real problem. and it'll probably be on the 24th of January, knowing them. But Vanderbilt win. Ole Miss win, although I think their game at Ole Miss is going to be a problem. Auburn has a hard time over there for whatever reason. Alabama, as it stands right now, I think Auburn wins that game, but Alabama at some point is going to click, and they're going to be a problem. Mississippi State away, that's going to be tough. I watched them play their game against Tennessee the other day, and they played great. Vanderbilt, I'm not worried about. Ole Miss there, I'm worried about. Alabama at home, I'm not worried about. Florida had a really nice win. They've had a few. Todd Golden, former Auburn assistant, is the head coach there. Guy I like a lot. I think they're going to click. South Carolina's better, but I don't think they're up to Auburn standard. Kentucky at Neville, I like Auburn. Georgia's a weird team. Still not worried about them yet. Tennessee away is going to be a problem. Mississippi State at home, I think that's going to be a problem. Missouri, I'm not worried about them, but they have a lot of talent. They should be better than this. And then Georgia at home, I'm not worried at all. So I think Auburn's going to finish about 14-4, in the league. Kaduman says Tennessee is going to be tough, as is Kentucky. That's right. Particularly if you're at Rupp, it's really hard to win. Here, Auburn, there's been times where I think Auburn wasn't as good as Kentucky, and they beat them here. So the teams you really got to worry about, though, in general, are Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. And then Mississippi State you got to keep an eye on, because I think that they're sneaky good. To me, Alabama's just one where they're not good right now, but they're going to be good. I think they will. It's just a matter of they've got to flick that switch, and they haven't done it yet. But when they do, there's going to be a problem. Excuse me. Tolu, Eric O, what's up, brother? I'm so glad to see you around a little bit more than I was seeing you around. He's good. He is. They got a couple guys over there at Mississippi State. They got some good players over there. Danny H jumps in with a super chat, says, I have no complaints as Auburn is once again headed in the right direction. There will be more bumps along the road, but we all hit a pith, occasionally. However, I trust Hugh driving the bus. He's done good work, man. And if he hadn't lost to Mexico State, I'd probably give him an A. But that game sucked, and they weren't even in the game, you know what I mean? They just got knocked around and just nothing. But, yeah, that's the right attitude, Danny. I wish more people had that attitude. Appreciate the super chat there, brother. So, to me, the ceiling on this team is a national championship. Talking about basketball, the floor is probably a 5 seed, and you lose in the round of 32 or something like that. I guess that would be the floor. You'd have to have a lot of injuries to key people, like Janai'd have to go down or something like that. Hayden says, what will be our matchup problem against Alabama? I don't really think about it that way. I just think about that team. And I think that when you play in Coleman and they've got their shit together, it's a problem. They're just not there yet. One man's opinion. Mississippi State is a very physical team. And Auburn, the Texas A&M is the most physical team, and they stood up to that challenge the other day. So that's a very positive sign. But we just have to see. I was bothered by that run they gave up today. It was a 21-2 run, and they didn't stem it very well. And part of that, I give that to Pearl for not calling any timeouts again. But I don't know. Yeah, Kanuman says 5 seed is a heck of a floor for Auburn hoops. I love it. Yeah, I mean, look, man, he's done work, and he's done work. Bruce Pearl's really, 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 really good. Auburn Dad for Life says Coleman is nothing. I'm not talking about Coleman like as a, the crowd's really rocking. I'm talking about I've covered Auburn playing there like 25 times, and Auburn shits the bed a lot. I mean, Alabama just plays great there against Auburn most of the time. That's what I mean. Kanuman says it's not so much as playing in the hangar. I was telling Courtney about that the other day. I said it really is like an airline hangar. It's about not playing in the Nev. Uncle Ob says, speaking of Texas A&M, Buzz Williams seems like a good dude. I think he's likable, and if he's your coach, you like him. But if he's the other guy's coach, he probably bothers you because he's just so animated and sweaty and just bothersome, I guess. But I think he's a good person. He seems like a good dude to me, like a kind of guy you'd want to party with. I also think he's a very bright coach. Very, very bright. Newman says BP has done work. BP twerks. My guy. Yeah, Hayden says Buzz is one of the few guys that still wears a suit on the court. Yeah, I like that about him. I do like that. I mean, I wear a tie on the show, but I noticed that the LSU coach today was basically wearing sweatpants. Yeah, I don't like that. Now BP's gotten to where he used to wear a tie, and now he wears like a shirt, like a button, like a collared shirt and pants, but. Mobile alum says I missed you. I'm sorry. I actually read it and then I didn't read it on the air though. There she is. How is Mama Tate? Looking forward to another Lower Alabama get together. Hope number 19 and number 20 show up. Yes, they were great, weren't they? We are definitely going to be doing that. Chip and I. Sorry guys. Chip and I have talked about this, and I've been trying to get Ravin involved with that too, who's from down that way. So. The goal is to have this in late April. It may end up getting pushed into May. But, yeah, we're going to definitely do something. I mean, Maddie's still down there, so I'll be down there. And my mom's doing, for her, good. I'd still like to see a little bit more out of her, but she's stable. And just kind of doing her thing. So to me, that's a win every day. I'll take it every day. Appreciate you, Mobile. I know you had like 4 super chats today, and I appreciate you. I do got to get this date nailed down. Chip's talking to me about it. We had a good date, Chip, and then I think Ravin wasn't feeling it. And we love Ravin, so I don't know. Ravin says, I don't think we'll ever catch Bruce back in a suit. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's changed for good. And Chip's shooting for April 27. Yeah, because I can't go the next week because that's Derby weekend. And then I can't go the next weekend after that because I think we're going on a trip with Maddie. So it just starts, and then you start getting down into May and June. And I don't know. We'll see. That probably, April 27th is probably the best. But if Ravin can't do it, I mean, that's a deal breaker for me, Let me get back to our main page. We're probably got to wrap it up here pretty soon. Courtney's giving me the wrap it up sign, I think, twice. Even though I'm not loaded at all. I think she's just said, "You're Gucci, bro." Scotty B in Tennessee, my man, says, "Smash that like button." Speaking of ties, you do look dapper as usual tonight, Commodore. Thank you. Courtney says she didn't like this tie. First of all, I didn't think about how Auburn was playing a purple opponent tonight, and it's purple. I wasn't trying to be sympathetic to LSU or anything. I just liked it. Like that purple. And Eric O, who you guys know from the bunker, but I'm not going to say what his handle is, says he's pulling for Mississippi State in this one. Who are they playing? Ravin says, I'll make it work. We'll figure this out. I want to make sure we get everybody there. Mobile alum's got to be there. 19 and 20 got to be there. 19's going to have to step up this year. He got a little wobbly there midday. We're going to have to get a better performance from him. He's got to make it to at least dusk this time. All right, we'll probably wrap it up there. I think we've talked about pretty much everything. We went no regrets as more whiskey cures the cough. Fuck it. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. I'll probably wrap it up there. Damn, guys, I'm sorry. I've been coughing for like a month. Uncle Ob, we love you, Tater. You the man. Thank you, Uncle Ob. I'm going to give you an applause for that one. Sorry, guys. Chip says, did 19 ever get his glass back? He did. There I go again. He did. Number 20 came by the house, and we got it handed off. So he's back in possession of that. There we go again. I'm not even sick. I haven't been sick for 2 weeks now. Still coughing, though. Anyway, guys, we'll wrap it up there. This next game is going to be late, the Vanderbilt game. So I'm guessing our next brain drain is going to be February 3rd for the Ole Miss game. That can't be right. Hell no. 7:30. 7:30 is tough. because we don't get on the air until like 10. That's going to be a TBA. We'll figure it out. I know Matt's like, drink plenty of fluids, bro. I've been trying, man. Hickadoodle wants to know where the offensive defensive coordinators are. They're working other jobs right now, but they'll be here. Don't worry about it, brother. We'll get it worked out as far as the next show. But, yeah, we'll definitely get on the air. I miss you guys. And I hope some of y'all miss me, too. Uncle Ob, you in particular. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there and continue to cough on my own time so you guys don't have to hear it. Be good. Make great decisions. See you guys on the bunker. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. And we're going to keep it real. Keep it real. Again, make great decisions. And also, don't libel anybody, okay? Don't libel anybody. Daniel, I know what you're going to try to do. And I can't help you. If you go to jail for that, if you want to sit there and libel Don and Hugh Janus, it's on you, buddy. If you're in jail, I'm not going to bail you out. If you're going to libelous jail. Good night, guys. Love y'all. See ya. Peace.